Hello and welcome to the Cisco AI Insights Podcast, where every month we invite a technology or AI expert to the show to highlight and discuss trends, news, and academic papers from the worlds of AI, machine learning, and data science. I am one of your hosts, Rafael Herrera, and my co-host is a machine learning engineer and data scientist in Cisco's customer experience team, Sónia Marques. How's your day going?
It's going great, Raf. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually pretty excited because today we're going to be exploring how to boost human participation in AI validation by treating expert engagement as a core design principle instead of just an operational afterthought. So, in other words, it takes humans to make AI, and how do we help them help us make AI that'll eventually help us? So, it's all very interesting, but I'm not the person that knows all about this. Joining us today is Cisco's technical leader in machine learning engineering, Catarina Carvalho, to discuss AI ergonomics, a term that she actually coined from her background in psychology and working in AI for so many years. This particular philosophy is designed to bridge the gap between model accuracy and human trust because, like I said, we need people to help us make those AIs. So, Catarina, tell us, what is AI ergonomics? I understand it's not about my posture. So, what is it?
Hi, Ralph. Hi, Sonia. Thank you for having me. It's always great to be back. So, yes, it's not about your posture. It has nothing to do with your chair, even though some people or most people will associate with your ergonomic chair. So, AI ergonomics is concerned with how humans and AI systems can effectively collaborate in shared tasks. This is to emphasize the design of work processes that support human capabilities, motivation, and well being while enabling effective human AI cooperation. So, in other words, it's just finding a way that we can leverage AI the most with a focus on human well being.
I think something that people don't know about AI is that the way you make that sausage can be pretty messy. I didn't know this until I started working with all of you data science folks. And there is a heavy level of human involvement in developing actual AI. I just thought it was something you paid a subscription to and then typed in your prompt. But it's far more complex to get to that point. And there's a lot of back and forth, confirmation, surveys, accuracy. So walk us through the process of how that kind of works. Tell me how easy it is to actually get people involved in this very essential process.
Yes, so it's definitely not easy. It's one of the most difficult tasks that we have in our hands when we are developing AI. Yeah, it's not just giving data and it will cook up something, or it will cook up something, but not what you are aiming for. So having participation of humans or people in the AI development is essential. And this is a key factor in influencing what the output will be, the quality of the output, and how useful our AI systems are. So we want to develop solutions that are useful, that support, that have a return on investment. And if we don't have these humans that will be using those solutions as part of the process, we leave it to the end, the key factor. And that will, for instance, AI validation has a very important role in developing solutions that are not biased. So we need to collect positive and negative feedback about the things that we are doing. We have to collect feedback from people that are supportive of AI or that people that are not that interested in AI, so that at the end, the essence is have a useful and practical solution for users to do, to explore, to leverage. So that's the only way that we can optimize processes, is to have people alongside using AI when it's meant to do this agentic, for instance, AI, and having humans in the backend supporting and doing the final adoption or the final usage of these tools. These are just tools, and because of that, they need to be developed with that in mind.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to give a little bit more context that both Catarina and I have experienced in AI consulting. So we have experience in bridging that gap between the humans and the SMEs and the AI that is developed. And I think there's two key stages. The first is the gathering of requirements, understanding the problem to tailor the solution. And then there is the validation of the data, getting our labeled data and our ground truth. And I think it's where Catarina is focusing a lot on her work is on this second part, the validation of the data for us to test against and to validate our pipelines and our systems. And I think it's actually one of the what changed the most between when we were working with more traditional AI models and now with LLMs. And I would like to have your take on why that changed so much between then and now, and how do you deal with the friction that we have now to get that data labeled?
Yeah, so let me split that in two. So, what has changed mainly from traditional ML, machine learning, or now the AI was that before we controlled the rules or we understood the processes that took to generate some output. Some input was given, we created an algorithm, we created a set of sequences that need to be followed. And we were pretty sure that given a specific input, we would get the output that the rule was meant for. So we were not that concerned about validating outputs because they were kind of under our control. We tested, it was deterministic. So that's totally different from what's out there nowadays with generative models. We give it some input, and because of the non deterministic nature of these models, we can get one output now and a different output in 5 minutes. And that can have a very big impact if we are, for instance, suggesting a solution to a bug. If we now say something and in 5 minutes we say something, or the LLM, the generative model, says something else, what is the correct answer? Maybe both are correct, maybe only one is correct. And this is when the second part of your question. So the human validation is so important. We need to make sure that if there's variation, that it's admissible, just two ways of solving the same problem. Or if there's variation, there's one that is correct and one that is incorrect. So that's why if you use these generative models out there, they always have a thumbs up, thumbs down. So this is the validation that these models do. This answer is not according to my expectations. And if you click the thumbs down, it will pop up this text box where you can feed in your why is it not adequate for your question. And this is actually, so thumbs up, thumbs down, free form texts are actually AI validation frameworks that these developers include, because we cannot be 100% sure. We want to have constraints. And again, as I said before, we want to maximize thumbs up and minimize thumbs down. The issue with that, which is what we were trying to explore, is that in essence, humans, people don't like to give thumbs up, thumbs down. They don't like to answer feedback forms. I know many people, I may be included, that don't answer all the surveys. And
I hate it.
see, so it's a common trend. If you can ask almost everybody, do you like answering surveys? And they will tell you no. So this is the barrier that we AI developers need to bridge, to sort out, to get more technical validation of our solutions so that we are more sure as much as we can about the quality and the accuracy of what we develop.
See, now I can see that being really complicated because obviously I hate doing surveys. I ignore them every single time. And even if they are trying to bribe me and try to find some way of getting me to do them, often I won't even open the email to know how they're going to bribe me. This obviously is a far more important kind of survey because the outcomes do have more of a lasting impact, especially. This is what AI ergonomics is about. It is about understanding how to get people to participate. So, what have you found in your research? What gets people to actually want to help in this sort of situation?
Yes, this review focused mostly on four aspects from survey methodology. So surveys have been used for a very long time, and people have been trying to fight these low response rates forever. So a positive or a successful survey response rate is around 40, 50%. So you can already understand it's very difficult to have people answering. So there's survey methodology that, for instance, tells you that it depends on who's asking what of you. So if you recognize that person as a valid entity and experienced entity with the legitimacy, you will answer it better. For instance, you were mentioning incentives. Incentives actually don't work that well. So You can bribe people, but they will still respond very low. Personalized communication, we know it's personalized, it always gets us far. And having these emails, reminders, Slack, WebEx, WhatsApp. So different channels of communication will work for different people. We have to recognize that people work in different ways. People have lots of work assigned to them. They don't need one extra survey. And so having these different channels help. For instance, studies have shown that social benefits and the meaningful of the outcomes that you are providing. So if you feel that your answers will actually be helpful, will be valued, that increases response rate. Unlike on the opposite, if you think that, yes, I'm going to answer, but nothing will change, so you'll just start skipping those. And an interesting factor was that it takes a very big effort for people to just click the link of the form or of the survey. So the biggest barrier that we should all fight is to have people clicking it. So your proposal for why that is important needs to be coming before the link itself, and it needs to be very motivational for the person to answer. And I think there's like a drop rate of only 30% of people actually click the link. So it's not about a lengthy questionnaire or a confusing one. It's just the willingness to be participating.
It sounds like a lot of this is a very familiar thing in the world because we're all trying to, pardon the way of expressing this, but we're all trying to manipulate each other into doing stuff. We're all trying to push each other, pull each other, convince, persuade, whatever, to do everything from voting to buying this particular can of beverage. Are those same principles just being applied to something like developing AI at this point, or has it gotten more sophisticated than that for something this impactful?
It depends on how you look at it, but actually this is like has a very strong social influence and compliance approach to having people actually buying or voting or answering our questionnaire. It's very similar. So you need to show them why should people actually spend time on this, and you should value always. Another very important aspect in this social influencing perspective of answering questionnaires is autonomy. No one likes to be forced to do anything. Everybody likes to feel autonomous. And so the people answering, if you force people answering your survey, which people may think that's a solution, the quality of your answers will be bad. So autonomy is key, identifying the value of what you are asking them for, identifying why they are important to your survey. So there has been these studies that were something like, we are looking for people just like you. And so they compared the response rates for just some volunteers in the street entering over questionnaires, or some volunteers, exactly the same volunteers, saying something. We were actually just looking for people like you. So like a tall guy in a suit or a short girl in a, so something. So people, when they were approached that by this social identity, they feel that their contribution will be more valuable. And so they are more prone to answer. There's this group that did a study that they had volunteers in the street handing over surveys. And to some, they just handed over the survey. And to others, they said, we are just looking for people like you. For instance, a tall guy in a suit or a blonde girl. So where they identified this social identity, people are more willing to answer. And additionally, there's another social or pro-social motivation. So participants are more willing to participate when they believe their contribution will help others. This altruism that we see in society, not that often, actually is helpful for having people to actually answer and give us feedback on our surveys to validate AI. So you can say that if you do these, you may be saving hours of work, of useless work to your colleagues. And this is, as you said before, Raf, it is showing the important aspects to have people understanding the value.
Yeah, this is so important for us to really grasp and to better communicate when we need this data, how we can communicate to the SMEs why we need it. Because, and I see a lot of similarities to just tips and tricks of motivation or how to beat procrastination and things like that, because it is like a very human thing to struggle with.
Mhm.
I think the most interesting part that you described in your review was to do with trust, which I think it's not so related with what we are used to reading about motivation and stuff. It's very specific to this AI theme. So, can we talk a little bit more about that? How trust plays a role on how people interact with these requests?
Trust is another big aspect. So I've heard people saying that, yes, I'm not going to answer that survey. I don't AI to take my job. And
Yeah.
so mistrust, distrust, lack of trust is around us in this new AI world where we feel we are losing control. But trust in AI is not universal, so it's highly variable and often stems from comparative evaluations against human judgment rather than objective performance metrics, right? We, the humans, and the objectiveness is something that we don't like that much. So there's even in this review, there was even this very interesting finding that authors proposed was that individuals who expressed lower levels of trust in humans were more likely to trust AI systems, suggesting that trust in AI may partially reflect dissatisfaction with human judgment rather than confidence in AI alone. So we are living in a polar world where you stop trusting humans, but you need to go to some kind of source and then you go to AI because you feel that the AI is entering you in an objective, unbiased, uncontrolled way, which we know it's not the truth. So these LLM models can add information. We can think about fake news. You can think about manipulation of prompts.
My thinking on this is I find it almost ironic that people that might feel a little less included in society will turn to participating with these AI tools and validating them. Then by doing that, and if we have mostly people like that doing it, we're going to make AI weird, aren't we? We're going to skew them in a specific direction that isn't the average person anymore. It's going to be shifting towards a specific direction, and it sounds like that might be a problem.
Definitely. And that's why in this review, there's also the how, why is this collecting feedback so important? Yes, we have to have representativeness in the people answering the feedback. We cannot only have one side of the society and the weirdos because that's how things go a bit wrong. So we can remember that the first LLM models were trained on social media text and the outputs were very yeah, scary to say the least.
You know what? I would call them a bit spicy.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can call them spicy, but we run the risk of if we don't control where our feedback is coming from, the quality of our feedback, that we may be actually fine tuning solutions that are just for a portion of the society that are biased. So we need to have this understanding of the humans as a whole, of the role of AI in society, of the actually what are we trying to solve, and have that together. It's like a mushy bowl of information.
I think that's why this concept that you brought up in your review of calibrated trust makes so much sense because it really aims for that balance. Because I've also been in contact with people that distrust AI, and when you ask them, they may not collaborate or not be so compliant. But the other way around, where people are just too trusting of AI and you hand an AI answer to review, they may be not so thorough in that revision because they just assume it is flawless. So that balance is really important, and it makes total sense for us to combat that bias.
I think balance is definitely the way to go with something like this. You mentioned this briefly earlier, Katarina, that the early LLMs were designed and validated a specific way. What about today? What is the process besides the thumbs up, thumbs down? Because I've always heard of people sending large swaths of data to different countries for them to have their opinions on things for tagging, labeling, and things. But obviously, that's going to skew things a specific way as well. Is there any kind of methods that people are using today that maybe can be improved on with this concept?
Yeah. So today, thumbs up, thumbs down are everywhere. They have very limited quantitative value because you don't know why is going wrong or why is going right. There has been, I think there's a new surge of annotation companies so that people are actually paid. Their day job is to be annotating answers,
Oh, wow.
text, code. So there's because validation is at the core again. We cannot be developing just because of the sake of it. We need to be developing with business value in mind. And that's how things are going.
Yeah.
I feel there's still room to increase the effort or the value seen these in these approaches of human in the loop. So human in the loop, as you said in your intro, it should be from the beginning of the process. Subject matter experts, people that will be validating the solution should be included as part of the functional team. It should not just be developed by some people and then handed over at the end before the end of the quarter to others so that they can just validate. People need to be at the core of AI development. Only then we will have the return on investment that we expect. And to do so, unfortunately, we need to adapt AI to what people are willing to do. No one will review page long documents every sentence. They will just be bored and they'll just say yes to this. So we need to, for instance, there's some in the report, there's some advices, if I can say that, to how to approach and to develop validation solutions. First of them, before starting a massive survey, do some pre-test and pilot studies and do some cognitive interviews. Ask people how they felt about it. Is it testing what they know? Is it testing what they should be doing?
Can you elaborate a little bit more on the cognitive interviews concept? Because that was new to me and I found it very interesting. I'm going to do it every
Yes.
process.
Exactly. So cognitive interviews are actually brought from my psychology course.
Awesome.
Is yes, and it's bridging this human tech gap. But so cognitive interviews aim to ask people how they feel about the survey. Do they think survey is capturing what is at the header? Do they feel this is the best way? So we need to put again humans at center. For instance, when developing technological solutions, we may not actually be the end users, or we just are developing the solution. And the requirements, they may be given to us, but they are not representative of the real end case and how people use it day by day. So these cognitive interviews allow us to ask people the qualitative information about the survey, what's capturing, what's missing. Does this make sense? It is very qualitative, it's very human dependent, so there's not going to be a form, but it can give us a new understanding of the problem and the solution to follow.
Yeah, it's very interesting because we are used to maybe a survey or have some way of getting reviews from SMEs. We sometimes ask for some feedback on the survey, but sometimes it is a sync. But the being on a call and listening to their thoughts as they are experiencing for the first time is so much more similar to what will happen when people click on the link on the email. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So obviously, this is all based on your several years of working in AI, actually building stuff from scratch. And it sounds like we need humans in a very deep way to actually make this stuff make sense. And that is the part of all this, the whole AI ergonomics side of things that surprised me because obviously I knew people were behind these tools and everything, but I didn't know how much. And really, what I got out of this is that we need humans to make AI better, so we have to get people excited to actually do it. And if we can't do that, we're gonna have some really weird and trippy AI out there, and we don't want that either. It could be dangerous. It's being applied to everything,
Yeah.
so who knows? And I know one last thing I wanted to add to this is we are bearing the lead here. This is all based on some research that you, Katarina, specifically have been doing and promoting everywhere you go. You're always talking to me about this AI ergonomic stuff, and it's really great. And I'm glad that you are getting the word out there because this will not be the last time you hear about this. I can guarantee you people are going to be talking about how people are influencing this stuff. So thank you very much, Katarina, for coming on the show. And if you are are interested in reading more about everything that she's been talking about in this podcast, we will have a link in the show notes as we always do. And go ahead and have a read. Maybe you can apply it in your own AI development out there in the world. And if you like conversations with experts about AI, machine learning, and all the other emerging data science technologies rapidly changing our world, please subscribe to the feed wherever you get your podcasts. We release these every single month, and we'd love to have you along for the ride. So thank you again, Catarina, for coming on the show. And until next month, I am Rafael. I have Sonia and Catarina. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you.